Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests. It's indeed a great pleasure to meet you here at the Ministry of Foreign and European Affairs at a conference which is prepared jointly by our ministry and by the American Chamber of Commerce. The present meeting, as we heard, is a follow-up of the conference organized in April 2010 entitled Innovation Policy and Technology Transfer, the outcomes of which have been successfully brought into practice, for example, by SARIO, carrying out the program of expanding innovative ideas from Slovakia to other countries, supporting startup innovative companies and plug-and-play programs. The Ministry of Foreign and European Affairs has organized several innovation conferences and fora since 2010. For example, a very successful Slovak-Nordic Innovation Conference in Bratislava, Slovak-Swiss Innovation Fora in Switzerland, Slovak-Danish Business and Innovation Conference in Denmark, Slovak-Dutch Business and Innovation Forums in Netherlands, and several Slovak-Turkish innovation conferences, all of them providing opportunities to support cooperation in the sector of innovation, science, and transfer of technology. The agreement signed between the Turkish Research Center TÜBİTAK and the Slovak Academy of Science can be mentioned as one of the examples of successful cooperation in the field of innovations. In recent years, in the light of the complicated economic and financial situation in the world, our ministry has redirected its focus to areas which used to be partly out of our viewfinder. As I mentioned on several occasions, we fully realize that times of classical foreign policy are over. Every modern diplomacy has to take economic diplomacy fully on board. This has been reflected also in strengthening the competencies of the Ministry of Foreign and European Affairs. What I have in mind are areas such as export, investments, energy, research and development, innovations, and new technologies. I am certainly not the first to coin the terms as energy diplomacy, economic diplomacy, and innovation diplomacy. All these areas depend on international cooperation and exchange, especially with our close partners and allies. The role of the Slovak Foreign Service is to facilitate such international partnerships, evaluate them from foreign policy point of view, and identify the prospective areas of international cooperation, which is certainly also one of the goals of this conference. As the title of the conference indicates, innovation is an imperative for our future. If Slovakia wants to be a prosperous country and a relevant partner, and this is certainly what we want, it has to develop competitive and knowledge-based economy. On the one hand, we can certainly be proud that we made it from 50% to 75% of the average EU GDP in less than 10 years. That after Slovenia, we were the second post-communist economy to fulfill the Maastricht criteria and became members of the Eurozone. That even in times of crisis, we still have moderate but stable economic growth. And that our government debt with 52% is much below the Eurozone average with 90% or the EU27 average, which is 85%. Yet, on the other hand, there is no reason for complacency. First, we are still 25% below the EU GDP per capita average. Second, being a member of Eurozone, the stabilization of the euro area means the stabilization of our own economy and currency, and thus our call for responsibility and solidarity. Our unemployment is among the highest in the European Union, let alone youth unemployment, with 1 out of every 3 young people unemployed. And we have a highly export-oriented economy, thus we are very exposed to external developments. Some of these points closely intersect with the topic of today's conference. High youth unemployment in Slovakia is interconnected with the gap between formal education and the needs of the labor market. Our well-developed education system produces a lot of well-educated graduates who unfortunately simply don't match the needs of the labor market. Better link between education and economy is a must. The Asian tigers such as Japan, Singapore, Korea, Taiwan and others that have based their economies on education, innovation and new technologies can serve us as a good example. Similarly, though we have one of the highest economic growth in the European Union, we don't want to remain the assembly line of Europe. Our ambition is to create our GDP by our intellect rather than by our hands. That's one of the reasons why our government has devoted 1 out of 7 chapters of its manifesto to the knowledge-based society and education. I already mentioned our strong export orientation. We fully understand the value of innovations in the current world. This is not just of symbolic, but also very tangible value. Innovations have become goods themselves, and quite lucrative ones. We wish to become a country that not only attracts investments, innovations, and new technologies, but also a country that's able to export them. Innovations and research and development require attractive business and investment-friendly environment. And I can assure you that the Slovak government is determined to develop this approach further. It's in our interest to have competitive jobs and R&D intensive businesses. The newly established support for export, investments, science, technology and innovations through the Slovak Government Councils for the Promotion of Export and Investments and the Government Council for Science, Technology and Innovations reflects our determination to institutionalize our dialogue and interaction with the business sector. In the same vein, the Ministry of Foreign and European Affairs has created an Office of the Ambassador with special assignments in science and innovations. Last but not least, with the aim of supporting investments in our country, the government of the Slovak Republic established also a new post of Vice Prime Minister for Investments. Slovakia has a great innovation and R&D potential, based, as already mentioned, primarily on its skilled and highly educated labor force. This can be enhanced by effective cooperation with our international partners. I'm greatly pleased to see at this conference the representatives of internationally renowned institutions. A large number of foreign and multinational companies, leaders in innovation and R&D, made investments in Slovakia. I'm glad that they are committed to the idea of building high-quality innovation and R&D environment in my country. For instance, through the cooperation with Slovak universities. And we should not forget to mention the outstanding examples of Slovak innovative companies such as ESET, as well as successful projects, for instance, the Košice IT Valley, the Central European Institute of Technology, and many more. We have to build on these successful stories and create new ones. Our universities are pillars of our innovation and R&D potential. The international cooperation, exchange programs, and partnership with private sector are the basis for high-quality and market-relevant education. Slovak Foreign Service is ready to facilitate also these contacts. Slovakia has to build the priorities on its existing strength. The intelligence specialization strategy, now under preparation, sets the priorities in the area of innovations and its objectives, with biomedicine and IT sector playing indispensable roles. In this respect, I'd like to point out a specific IT area, namely cybersecurity, which deserves our attention not only as a business opportunity and a potential niche area of the Slovak IT sector, but also a matter of the national security and the security of our allies and partners. Ladies and gentlemen, as everything, also education, science, research and development depend on available resources. However, it is not so dependent on objective preconditions such as natural resource, geographical location, size of the country, etc. In this sense, in the area of innovation, we are quite equal. Here comes the responsibility of governments, their ability to understand modern trends and react to them adequately, to channel the resources, both human and financial, in the right direction. I believe Slovakia has it all to succeed in coping with innovation challenges. However, this requires commitment from all of us, the private and public stakeholders, assigning the necessary resources, developing the right policies and best practices, and above all, building partnerships, for example, by organizing conferences just like the one we are attending here today. We do realize the importance of maintaining the competitiveness of our economy, providing for and increasing employment opportunities, also by means of innovations, acquiring advanced technologies, developing knowledge-based economy, with the cooperation and assistance of all the actors concerned. I hope that the present conference and its initiatives and incentives will greatly contribute to a better innovation milieu in Slovakia. I wish you good and thought-provoking discussion and a successful conference. And to all our guests, I wish a pleasant stay in Bratislava. I thank you for your attention. Ďakujem pekne.